everyone. Welcome to Dharma podcast. As Delhi goes to vote today, I think it's pertinent to bring in Sandeep Balakrishna and discuss the trajectory of what once promised to be an honest party to the bunch of charlatans embroiled in multiple controversies and scams. And it remains to be seen what the outcome of this election is. But Kejriwal and his bunch of self-professed honest people need a thorough analysis, and that's what we intend to do with Sandeep Balakrishna in this conversation. So thank you all for joining. Let's get started. Hi Sandeep. The voting percentage reported at 1 p.m. today has been about 33%. So usually it picks up in the second half and more towards the evening after working hours. So it remains to be seen what that translates to in terms of electoral outcomes. But we thought it would be good to discuss the growth trajectory of Aam Aadmi Party, particularly Mr. Kejriwal, from where he started and where he is landed as of today. So, you remember he began before he made it into the political power system. He read out a list of 160 names, which included Mr. Gadkari, for example, saying, I have a list of Sheila Dikshit was another name. I have a list of 160 corrupt people with no evidence. It was almost like a presser. And across multiple terms of his, there was no action taken. In fact, he had to apologize to Gadkari, and that letter has been in the public domain for a while. From what was once seen as a credible party by some people to its bunch of repeated lies, how do you think it has changed the polity of Delhi, the future of the city, and therefore beyond that as well?
Yeah, Parag, thanks. For framing the context in this fashion. I had planned to approach this topic in a different way, but your context is rather interesting to say the least. And you know what? It also reflects something else. That apart from the Aam Aadmi Party, this Delhi elections, it appears that no other party is in the fray, so to speak. Although the BJP is still the largest party with the maximum number of state governments under its control, not to mention Mr. Modi's third consecutive term as Prime Minister. But as far as Delhi is concerned, the whole narrative, the whole discourse seems to be Aam Aadmi Party centric. And it's also interesting, how you briefly summarized the trajectory of this so-called Aam Aadmi Party, or the common man's party. That is Aam Aadmi. Aam also means mango in Hindi. As always, I like to dig down, strip down any issue to its core fundamentals. So any which way you look at it, Parag, the Aam Aadmi Party is not a political party in the true meaning of the term, because there is a certain manner in which a political party gets formed, and there is a certain trajectory, there is a certain career growth path. Just like an individual professional, there is a growth path, there is a path of evolution for every political party, whichever it might be. All the offshoots of Congress party like TMC, or so-called regional parties like DMK or TDP,
NCP,
Mayawati's party, NCP, they all come in this traditional mold. Whether you like them, you agree with them, disagree with them, you don't like Mayawati, you don't like Mulayam or Akhilesh, it doesn't matter. But they have grown, they have been incubated, they have grown in a certain familiar political environment. And to that extent, you have to, give them credit for what it's worth. But measured on all these parameters, the Aam Aadmi Party doesn't remotely resemble a traditional political party at all. Since its inception, what the Aam Aadmi Party is really, is that it is a ragtag, motley outfit of anarchists, black marketers, blackmailers, bootleggers, extortionists, black cinema ticket sellers, arsonists, opportunists, even jihadists. But worst of all, the Aam Aadmi Party is a collection of nation breakers of every hue and color and stripe. This is what the Aam Aadmi Party is. And it's rather timely that we are doing this episode, and it's not the least because Delhi voters are at the booths today. But these Delhi elections are also a good peg to explore the Aam Aadmi Party's sleazy history. Now tell me, Parag, and you mentioned this already, but just to repeat it, what are the origins of Aam Aadmi Party? How did it start? Did it start as a political party?
No.
What did it start as? So it began with something called India Against Corruption. Who remembers this? Headed by whom? Not Arvind Kejriwal, not Manish Sisodia. It was headed by an old man called Anna Hazare, who had all but been forgotten. But he was quietly, picked up some remote area in Maharashtra and made as the face of India Against Corruption, because Kejriwal was no leader back then. Nobody knew him. He had no face recall. He had no brand recall. So they put this half-baked Gandhian, some kind of anti-alcoholism crusader called Anna Hazare. And back then, when this India Against Corruption had begun, it went on. Those protests went on for I think continuously for 1 week or something. Back then, I used to run a very popular blog called Rediscovery of India. The next day after this human chain started, under the banner of India Against Corruption, I had written an article which I had titled as Anna Hazardous. Okay. So this, those some memories. Maybe we'll revisit that in a different episode. But both India Against Corruption, Anna Hazare as its face, and the whole movement, which was basically an agitation against the Indian government. Okay, it was not a political movement. It was disguised as an agitation against corruption. And it became hugely successful because of its timing, which is very important. And timing is one. The second thing was that the success of IAC was a gift which was directly handed over to Kejriwal on a platter by the Congress-led UPA government, which had reached record levels of corruption by 2012. UPA ministers back then were looting India as a percentage of the GDP. All these scams, coal scam, what is that, Commonwealth Games scam, every day, actually the TVs and newspapers had a field day. Their revenues were at a record level high, which is also why, they are very angry that Mr. Modi has come. Corruption makes for good media business as well.
Absolutely.
So anyway, and a lot of those former editors of different media outfits back then have become ministers and MLAs in the same Aam Aadmi Party. Kejriwal's success was also the success of what I can call as the great Delhi middle class specifically. It was a success of the Delhi middle class and also the success of the Indian middle class to a limited extent. And broadly speaking, at a social and human sphere, broadly speaking, it is always the middle class that is immediately affected by political and economic corruption. They are the people, this class bears the brunt of corruption the first. And rather yet, it is the same middle class that also has the smallest percentage of decisive votes required to form a government by any political party. So, this explains Kejriwal's success, but what kind of a leader is Mr. Arvind Kejriwal? You mentioned in your introduction, all his lies and everything. Perhaps the worst and the most heinous lie that he has ever spoken in his life is that he has taken a false oath on his own children and broken it repeatedly. And, like you mentioned, we need to create a separate planet to store the list of his lies. So, yeah, you had a question.
So, I'm saying, as an extension of the heinous act of swearing on his own children and violating that own oath, today when he went up to the voting booth, in spite of having all the chief ministerial entourage otherwise available, he and his wife were, towing the wheelchairs on which his parents were seated. Exactly for the same reason. It is an extension of what he exploiting his own family to gain sympathy and to put up a facade. I mean, there is no nadir for him. Everything goes.
No, he can. If you think this is the lowest that he has plumbed, just wait for the next round until he will prove how much lower can he go.
Absolutely.
So this is Kejriwal for you, but there is some kind of a poetic justice in all this. With each passing second, we are hearing the shocking revelations tumbling out of the skeleton closet of something called the US aid. Remember these?
Yes.
We'll look at these to the Delhi elections, Aam Aadmi Party and US aid in a parallel track, and we'll see where all the points of connection are there. Okay. So the US aid, admitted by several sections of the US government itself, not including President Donald Trump and his closest buddy Elon Musk, not including them. Millions of ordinary Americans are openly telling that US aid is one of the world's biggest mafia operations ever formed. US aid was also formed by the same forces that created, funded, operated and executed various regime changes, and these were also the same forces that directed, produced and funded the Aam Aadmi Party. So this is the other thread that will open.
So what you're leading to, I presume, is the links to the Magsaysay Foundation and the Ford Foundation.
I'll come to that.
Yeah.
I'll come to that. So let's not forget the fact that Aam Aadmi Party was the very first attempt at regime change in India. So if you have to look at all this in hindsight now, with all those deadly revelations and exposés that are coming out, everybody and his grandfather can talk about this, but a bunch of us back then, I'm not saying this out of pride, but we were closely monitoring and tracking all these developments in those days, and it is very clear that Aam Aadmi Party was the first attempt at regime change in India. And it also failed in India for a singular reason. The United States of America, and broadly speaking, the Western Hemisphere, they simply cannot understand the Indian society. They have never been able to understand the Indian society since the time, even during the pre-colonial era. Europe has singularly failed at understanding the Indian society. On the contrary, regime changes in countries like, say, Egypt, Ukraine and other countries, they were relatively easy to carry out because those societies are largely homogeneous and they are already volatile. So all it needs to do is to tap into this volatility, play it up continuously from different angles, ensure that it reaches a tipping point and then the regime change occurs. All right. As simple as that.
And the same template has succeeded with the same US aid in Bangladesh, right?
Yeah, Bangladesh also. Now, as I keep saying, the same is not true in the case of India. Why? Because as I keep mentioning in my other episodes, that our societal chaos, the Indian and specifically the Hindu societal chaos, is also our greatest safeguard, because in chaos, in a highly decentralized kind of a network, there is no single point of failure. You throw out a Sheikh Hasina or a Khalida Zia or one of those quasi-dictatorial leaders and presidents, you topple the regime, bring in your favorite puppet. It is not possible in India. As simple as that. So our chaos is also our greatest protection. Here is another important data point that I will mention, which has pretty much been forgotten. I clearly remember an important news report dating back to 2014, specifically on 12th February 2014, the ambassador of the United States to India, her name is Nancy Powell. She had to swallow her pride and she had to go all the way to Gandhinagar from Delhi to meet the then Gujarat Chief Minister named Narendra Modi. This is how the Telegraph newspaper reported that meeting, and I will quote verbatim from it. Quote, "The United States made Narendra Modi wait for more than 8 years. But in the end, it was the Gujarat Chief Minister who forced Washington to plead, not once, not twice, but thrice in the past 3 months before agreeing to terminate a diplomatic spat that began when the United States denied Modi a visa in 2005. US Ambassador to India Nancy Powell will meet Modi on Thursday in Gandhinagar, ending America's boycott of the BJP's prime ministerial candidate ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, where he is widely viewed as a frontrunner. But it is a US embassy here that was eventually made to sweat for the meeting by Modi after a series of tense attempts at ice breaking, all of which failed.
This is the Telegraph.
Modi eventually agreed to a meeting strictly on his terms, the official said. The location had to be Gandhinagar, the choice of subjects had to be in tune with his national role. He got what he wanted, and he got it exactly the way he wanted, an official said. In the end, they, the US, were chasing him. Close quote. What did I tell in the previous episode? The epoch-making, the tide-turning elections of 2014 in India has far more far-reaching consequences than we can possibly even fathom.
Yes.
All right?
Well beyond electoral outcomes.
Now, it doesn't end here. This Nancy Powell story doesn't end here. You know what happened after the meeting? Nancy Powell was forced to return to the United States and she was asked to resign in disgrace. And guess who was the US president back then?
Bush Jr.
Barack Obama.
Obama, yeah, sorry.
This is 2014.
Yeah.
Okay. And guess who was the president in 2005 when US denied the visa to Modi? Barack Obama. It was the second year of his presidency. All right. And it was during the two consecutive tenures of the Democratic Party under Barack Obama's presidency that the far left, the extreme left, the insane forces of wokeism, all of them combined to usurp the full powers and the ideology of the Democratic Party in the United States. So this has such a prolonged history. Now, it was also the same period when a cabal of far-left NGOs allied with various church and missionary organizations and other Breaking India forces which controlled, pressurized the UPA government in India. You see the links?
Yes.
Okay.
The whole chain.
And some of these NGOs were tacitly sleeping with Arvind Kejriwal and Manish Sisodia, the two men who really run the Aam Aadmi Party, even today. Okay. This man has gone to jail.
Out on bail.
He wields no official position, so to say, no ministry, no nothing. But he's still, controlling the whole and soul of Aam Aadmi. They're dictatorial, basically. Let's also not forget the fact that both Arvind Kejriwal and Manish Sisodia were given birth to by the same global NGO nexus. Let's also not forget the fact, what you mentioned, that Arvind Kejriwal received the notorious Magsaysay Award, an award which is given to every third-rated, India-hating, India-breaking person. Let's also not forget the fact that apart from Kejriwal, Mr. T.M. Krishna, a musical urban Naxal, he also got the notorious Magsaysay Award. And he's been instrumental in converting the Madras Music Academy and pretty much spreading woke filth.
Yeah, sullying the whole music scene.
In a sacred space called Carnatic Classical Music. Recipient of Magsaysay Award. Once again, this man, T.M. Krishna's heart bled for people like Yakub Menon, people like Kanaya Kumar. You name the traitor, these people are all friends with them. They're all their supporters and comrades. Now, Parag, tell me, when was the last time you heard Mr. Kejriwal talking about eradicating corruption? Why have we as a nation so quickly forgotten this fellow's infamous muffler, his incessant bouts of coughing and an alleged asthma? Why have we forgotten all this? You brought this point briefly, earlier in this episode, about, how he brought his parents on a wheelchair to the voting booth. This man can go to any extent, apart from, taking false oaths on his children. He can go to any extent. He, in his first, in his ascendancy, remember he said he's not in this for, politics.
Yeah.
And right a year after that, he forms Aam Aadmi Party. All right. He weaponizes even his clothes. Muffler is gone. The crumpled pant and shirt is gone. The Hawaii chappal is gone. Above all,
Reynolds pen is gone.
Gone. Above all, why has Arvind Kejriwal become so fat so soon? Remember,
yeah.
So this
Well
man is a crusader of corruption. Really, that's how he brought अंबानी चोरे, अडानी चोरे, गडकरी चोरे, सब चोरे. सिर्फ मैं ही honest.
मैं ही साधु हूँ.
हाँ, मैं ही honest हूँ. Okay, so that's it. Arvind Kejriwal is a major component. In fact, he is the real dark web. There is a dark web out there on the internet, but this man is one of the faces of a more sinister dark web. This dark web and Mr. Kejriwal and all forces like him, they respect no law, they have no decency, they recognize no rules of engagement, and it is in fact a very, very old playbook, a very old strategy and tactic which was first used in practical politics by a man named Vladimir Lenin.
Okay.
There's
a playbook from there.
ये सब लेनिन का children हैं.
The playbook is from there.
That playbook has a simple goal. It is to capture power at all costs and power for its own sake. This is also the one-line history of communist Russia and Maoist China. There is also another Leninist tactic that Kejriwal and his Aam Aadmi Party have employed in the last 10-12 years. Look at how Delhi has been physically destroyed, piece by piece, bolt by bolt, by Arvind Kejriwal during his tenure as a chief minister. Physically destroyed. All these reckless promises of freebies and free power and free bus transport, everything free. So the infrastructure gone, water supply gone. One short brief spell of rain, Delhi streets are flooded. Filth is overflowing on the streets. This physical destruction of Delhi is deliberate. And now, look at what is happening in Punjab, another state ruled by Aam Aadmi Party. Yeah.
And definitely more sensitive given it's a border state.
Yeah.
So, the destruction is on multiple levels, right?
Yeah.
It is physical infrastructure, it is financial.
It is deliberate.
Yeah, it is deliberate. Weakening the capital, right?
Yeah. So, why has all this happened? What motivates this? Mr. Kejriwal doesn't want to govern. Governance is hard work. Governance is also boring work. It is also donkey labor. You have to sit every single day, look at files, connect the dots. Governance, they say politics is the art of the possible, but governance is the art of the practical. Because when you say governance, you're not governing something inert. You're dealing with the daily lives of ordinary people.
Affecting millions.
It's a question of destiny as well. So Kejriwal neither has the time nor the patience, nor the inclination,
Capacity.
nor the intent to do all this. On the other hand, Kejriwal wants to uproot the existing order by creating anarchy at regular intervals. You can give hundreds of examples. Look at all the major incidents in the last decade in Delhi. Farmers' protests, waging war against the Indian state in the guise of protesting against the CAA, all the prolonged jihadi violence. Remember the gory killing of that police superintendent?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a crowded Muslim area.
The Ankit Sharma, the IB
Yeah,
officer, who
the
was slapped
IPS
400
officer,
times,
yeah.
for which their MLA was arrested.
Yeah. So that jihadi violence, who masterminded that particular violence? It was an MLA of the Aam Aadmi Party named Tahir Hussain.
Tahir Hussain.
He's been convicted. So, you can go on and on. So, yes, it is true that while on the surface, Delhi is going to the polls now, today, even as we speak. But the worrying part is that a third consecutive victory for Aam Aadmi Party will ensure the thorough undoing of the state. Okay, I mean, the sky is the limit as far as this is concerned. I don't know why this man is even out on bail. He was there for what, 6 months or something?
Yes.
I don't know.
He was released on bail to campaign.
Campaign, look at that. Okay. Now, we can kind of wind up today's episode with one note. Remember, Parag, how it was the same Kejriwal who ran away just after 49 days during his first term as the chief minister. That is one fact. But the question that arises from that is that what explains his subsequent 2-term stint as chief minister? That is where the real danger lies. And if we are really serious about national security, the first thing to do is a fundamental reform, which should begin with the removal of the statehood of Delhi.
While at a superficial level, one has always maintained that Kejriwal is the best student that the NSD, the National School of Drama, never had. I think the larger points are what Sandeep unraveled in the last 30 minutes or so. He was the first serious attempt, and still remains a potent threat, of a regime change operation. So I think the Indian society, the Hindu society in particular, like Sandeep pointed out, has been a bulwark against such regime change forces. One can only hope that there is wisdom that prevails on the voters. So thank you all for joining Dharma podcast and listening to the conversation with Sandeep. Please join, like, share, subscribe, and share the content so that it reaches a wider audience. We look forward to your continued support.